My name is Karim. I'm part of the project services recruitment team at Precision, and yeah, looking forward to running you through the market report today. So, if I could just ask all of you to please put yourselves on mute, and sort of any questions that we have, if you're able to please leave them to the end, then we'll have a full sort of Q&A where we can go through that and answer them in detail. So first thing I want to say is obviously, again, thank you for joining us along. Market report we've pulled out this quarter, and it kind of summarizes the entire year. So I will go through every part of that in detail. Just want to say the information that we get for this market report comes typically from our candidates, clients' conversations. This is our everyday kind of conversations that you don't really get to hear about elsewhere. On top of that, we obviously use our database, information from jobs, from meetings, and of course a mix of publicly available information as well that you guys can access on LinkedIn, Seek, etc. So we've kind of collated all that together and put it into a pack that's easy for you to look through. And yeah, I hope you find it informative. But yeah, so overall, a snapshot of the market. I think if any of you have been following my posts on LinkedIn, you will know that my personal opinion on the market is that it's been very positive. The BA markets, especially in the last 12 months, I think we've seen a huge increase in demand. Sorry, can you please put yourself on mute? Yeah, we've seen a huge demand for BAs, which is obviously really promising because a lot of those will be forming projects that other project professionals will be joining later on the line. But I think where it's been quiet for projects and change, in the last actually 2 or 3 months, we've seen a huge uptick in those types of roles as well, which is really, really positive signs. And a lot of that work has been a bit of a mixture. Previously, in the last 12 months, I think we've seen mostly smaller scale tech uplifts, just stuff that kind of keeps companies ticking over, or smaller scale improvements that need to be done, or maybe end of life system projects. But actually now what we're seeing is a mix of transformational work, still with a tech uplift in mind. But all of these programs of work are looking to be geared more towards efficiency, scalability, and also supporting or enablement for new future tech, particularly obviously AI, data, etc. So a lot of the work that we're seeing now is kind of the background to that. So it's really positive, like really exciting, and yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of work coming out of it. I guess in terms of industry type, I think we're seeing this across the board. Energy, utilities, financial services, government, technology, even aged care and healthcare is probably the areas that we've seen the most growth and the most demand. I guess is probably linked to the fact that a lot of them probably still operate on slightly older tech, maybe, or maybe they've not prioritized some of the tech project work recently, so they're looking to do that now. But yeah, in terms of the types of work we're seeing also, it's been a mixture again across permanent contracting and fixed term contract hiring. I know there was a period before the prior to the last 12 months where maybe fixed term contracting was becoming the more dominant way of hiring projects people, but I think that's kind of fallen down the wayside a little bit, and I think we're seeing a bit more perm and traditional day rate contracting hiring, which is again really positive for the market. And yeah, I think companies are looking to prioritize skill set rather than cost, which is also a promising sign. From a BA standpoint, like I was saying before, there's been probably one of our busiest areas, if I'm honest. And a lot of the BAs that are being hired are kind of very early stages, really, kind of working with the business, getting the requirements, kind of trying to understand the requirements. And then that's obviously the beginning part to delivering the pieces of work that they're looking to deliver. And obviously some other things like regulation-led industries like, energy, utilities, financial services, that's always going to produce some work as well. But we're seeing quite a bit of that in the BA space. From the PMs and change standpoint, we're seeing, again, a big increase, as I was saying, but a lot of that seems to be very much hands-on delivery focused. In some cases, in a lot of our change roles that we've had, we've seen a lot of that kind of focus on tech delivery and tech enablement and tech adoption. So that is still something that, that's something that we're seeing in the market at the moment. Obviously, there's still large application volumes when it comes to when obviously companies are looking to hire, and I think that's still kind of a little bit of a pain point, not just for the candidates fighting off competition, but also for hiring managers, and that's made them also become a little bit more picky with regards to what they're looking for, because they've got obviously available, they've got a lot of tech skill sets available to pick from. And I think what you'll see as a theme throughout this presentation is that something that's become really desirable is not just specific tech experience, but actually a really good communication style and really good stakeholder management experience. That's been the key driver for majority of the roles that we're getting. So yeah, overall really positive. Good overview for the next 3 to 6 months as well. And yeah, lots of project work kicking off. What we've been hearing is, again, just as kind of cover off what we've been saying, this is mainly what our clients have been saying, but a lot of the pain points that they're seeing is with regards to finding candidates who can communicate effectively, who can sit in between the business and IT, who can talk technology to people who don't understand technology, or talk projects to people who don't understand projects, and operate in an environment that's not really project mature or is not really seen that scale of project delivery before. And maybe there's a bit of sensitivity around how they deliver that message, or how they get the requirements. That communication piece is something that we're hearing from everyone. It's become really important. And in fact, some of the roles that we're also seeing have prioritized that in the core skill sets over specific tech experience, which is again really interesting, because that's been completely different in the last 12 months, where really highly specialized skills have been required to deliver some work. So that's been quite interesting. But yeah, that also hiring managers have expressed, like I was saying before, a huge amount of availability in the market for candidates. That has meant that they have become more picky with what they're looking for, but also maybe a bit more drawn out in the hiring process, because they're kind of trying to see a few more people before they make a final decision. So yeah, that's that's basically what they're saying to us, but nothing different to what has been the last few months. Over to the BA market specifically. So yeah, again, like I was saying before, very busy. What we've seen in the last few months is highly specialized skill set requirements. So very tech focused, very, kind of come in, hit the ground running, deliver quickly, deliver well, and then, and then basically finish up. But actually now we're sort of moving towards maybe more of a long-term capability. So what we're seeing with a lot of BA practices is actually the desire to build long-term permanent BA teams. That's for a number of reasons. Obviously, mainly budget-wise, companies don't want to do huge transformation, hire loads, and then loads of people go. They kind of want to try and build the projects up a little bit and deliver slowly. And the other thing is obviously IP, right? If you hire people, a lot of people on contract, everyone knows once those people leave, IP tends to go with them. So it's a mixture of those two things. But with that in mind, what we're seeing, that's kind of where the shift in the focus and skill sets come from, because then you're moving away from really specialist skill set experience to someone who has a really good core BA skill set, who can deliver across multiple different project verticals. Obviously, coupled with maybe some niche experiences or some specific project delivery experience in specific IT that might be useful for the short term or maybe in the future. Again, communication skills the key thing. This is going to be the theme of this presentation, if I'm honest, but that's been something that has stood out as a requirement from all hiring managers. From a BA standpoint, what that means really is the way you get the requirements, the way you don't just take the requirements on face value, but kind of pick them apart a little bit or challenge them, or and the way you document and the way you take people on that journey. And then that's on the business side, but then on the other side, where you kind of work with the tech teams on the solution, does a tech team fully understand what it is that the business wants? The BAs are the glue, and that communication piece is, what hiring managers see as the most important to make sure that you bring the two together. In terms of I think that's going to be the key theme, industry wise, across the board mostly, but again, all the industries where they've not really been doing major projects of work or IT projects of work, so utilities, aged care, healthcare, energy, I think that's where we're seeing the most demand. Obviously, financial services is usually quite busy anyway, as is government. But yeah, across the board is what we're seeing for demand. Onto the project management market. So yeah, that's been something that's become really busy in the last 2 months, or 3 months, sorry. The last few, I could probably say the last couple of years, I'm sure a lot of you who are PMs will know it's been very, very quiet, very competitive. The rates have come down quite considerably because of that as well. But yeah, it's really positive that we're seeing the demand for PMs that has gone up. The types of PMs that we're seeing that are in demand are more on the sort of hands-on delivery rather than more senior sort of program director, program manager level, maybe that kind of operating that portfolio level or doing the strategy and governance and that kind of stuff. I think what we're seeing is people who are more hands-on, who come in, get their hands dirty, work with the tech teams, sometimes get really involved with the tech teams, or people who are just that bridge between the business and the vendor. So just really hands-on delivery skill set. And interestingly, actually, we're seeing a lot more emphasis on the methodology and, whether it's agile or waterfall as well. So which is typically obviously important for PMs anyway, but yeah, we're seeing more of a hybrid approach taken by hiring managers, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Technically, for PMs at the moment, there is that element of specialization still. People are prioritized who've delivered specific types of projects, for example, infrastructure projects or specific ERPs, or maybe anything with regards to data or digital transformations. And when I say digital transformation, I mean specifically stuff that impacts customers and users of the digital assets, like websites and apps, rather than kind of like the digital side on the back end of ERP projects. So there's a lot of demand for people with that experience as well. But again, the most important thing is communication, stakeholder management, the way PMs influence, the way PMs communicate with the tech teams. What hiring managers don't want is a PM that comes in and asks for a whole, army around them to be built. Someone who can come in, kind of look at, get their bearings, figure stuff out, and do as much as they can on their own, and help the delivery is what's needed. That's also, a lot of our clients have been organizations who are not really project mature. And with that in mind, PMs need to be able to come in with a really good framework, really good methodology, maybe with a skill set where they can help uplift the PMO, but with that not being their primary focus of the role. That's also been something that's been really important. And, that stakeholder management piece comes in with working with stakeholders who maybe don't understand project management, and you might have to engage them and keep them accountable and keep them updated, just the basics of PMs basically. So yeah, that's kind of the skill sets that we're seeing required for PMs. Over to change, probably the quieter of the three, still fairly busy, and from, I guess, compared to what it has been like, the mixture that's been very focused on hands-on change delivery as well. So we're seeing less demand for kind of the senior change managers or change directors, and we're seeing more demand for hands-on change managers, people who actually get their hands dirty, who maybe actually get really involved with the training side of things as well, and who can work with the business to embed that change, particularly when it comes to tech change. We're seeing a bit of desire for those change managers to have to be very data literate, so experience with data projects, experience with obviously AI, and anything around tech improvements is what we're seeing. Change is probably still kind of behind in terms of requiring, in terms of contract versus permanent hiring. It's still very FTC led, although we have seen some day rate contracts being available. Sorry, let me just mute everyone on here. And I guess for all three of those, location wise, we're not seeing any particular location be less or more busy. I think all major locations across Australia, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Adelaide, are firing up. They're all hiring. Obviously, Melbourne and Sydney are the bigger markets, and naturally there's going to be more, but there's still a lot going on in the likes of Adelaide and Brisbane. Skills in demand. I'm going to say again, is going to be stakeholder management. You see that across all three. That's been, again, the biggest desirable. The way you communicate, the way you do your core, the core of your role, is just, you can't beat that at the moment. And that's been something that has been prioritized in interviews as well. But for BAs, something that's maybe a bit more of a technical literacy, so not just being involved with the business and getting the requirements, but also actually being very involved with the tech solution teams, so working closely with architects and devs. Someone who can have that chat with them and keep them accountable, I think, has been really important. So that end-to-end skill set spills over onto projects and change as well. For projects, they're not looking for someone for both projects and change, they're not looking for someone who's just strategy focused and just gets involved in the business side of things, but actually someone who understands the tech, because hiring managers feel that if you understand the tech, you can obviously provide a better experience to the business as well, and manage their expectations. From a project management standpoint as well, what we're seeing, like I was saying before, is someone who comes with a really good methodology and good process, and maybe experience in uplifting governance and delivery practices. So that's been something that, so they're looking for experienced people who can come in and help uplift that. And for change, someone who can get involved with training as well. Training has been quite a desirable skill set for us on that. But again, to wrap it all up, stakeholder management is the big one. Communication skills, how you communicate with your team is really important. Outlook for FY27. So for the new financial year, as I think we're going to see continued demand across all three of those roles. BAs, obviously, as new transformation programs start kicking off, and as businesses want to work out what they're going to be doing, obviously they're going to be hiring BAs. And then later on, obviously, maybe they might require some more specialist skill sets as well. As the BAs map all that out and get the requirements, I think then you're going to spill over onto projects, change, and other more technical roles. So we're seeing a very positive outlook for both. We might even see the same evolution of the types of skill set in demand as we've seen with BAs in the last 12 months, where maybe they're looking for something a bit more hands-on, a bit more techie, but actually in the next 12 months, that might change to the more senior level positions being required as well. And naturally, as the major transformation programs build out, you're going to need a lot more of a different skill set. So I think it'll be interesting to see how organizations approach that. And again, I think there'll be a mixture of permanent contract and FTC resourcing. A lot of the organizations that we work with, particularly, when you consider healthcare or aged care, then don't really have too much budget to play with, but still need the same level of experience. So they might utilize fixed term contract hiring a bit more, for example. Whereas you see the bigger organizations who have a bit more budget to play with, they might look at daily rate as a quick, just get someone in, get them delivered, and then try and get them converted to maybe a permanent resource down the line. So yeah, I think lots coming up in the new financial year for sure. Rates and salaries. So obviously you all want to get paid for what you do. I'm assuming. This is obviously the big one. Obviously we combine all information that we know from candidates, clients, from our jobs that we receive from the market, and we put this into a guide. So this is just to be used as a guide. This is not like a rate or salary Bible, obviously. And a lot of that does depend on a lot of other factors. So obviously location, Sydney and Melbourne typically do pay that a little bit more for roles. Adelaide or Brisbane, maybe a little bit less, depending on if the role was really niche. Then we've seen quite high daily rates or salaries being asked of candidates. Type of project, obviously, if it's a really highly technical piece of work, or really specialist in terms of a specific ERP or a specific type of regulation or whatever, then you'll see, and you need people with that experience, that will drive up the salaries, right? Because that cuts down the talent pool for that role. Longevity of work is a big one. I think people often assume that it's a transformation and you should be paying this much, should be paying that much. Actually, like what I'm noticing is, obviously in the big transformations of work, when you have to hire lots of people, when you're already spending a lot of money, I think hiring managers tend to be a bit more strict with budget. And I think that needs to be taken into account as well. And obviously competition, like if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more generic, where there's going to be hundreds of applications, you might have to look at coming down a little bit on your expectations, purely because at the end of the day, if they have 2 or 3 candidates with the same skill set and that they're happy with, and one is $100 a day less, one is $100 a day more, they're obviously going to pick the one that's more cost effective. So yeah, this is kind of what we're seeing as what will affect it. But overall, I think they've been pretty stable, not come down too much. And we might well see that go up again in the next few months as demand increases. CVs, that's been something that has been scrutinized quite a lot. So I wanted to add that slide in there. And it's particularly important for project types roles, where I think the important thing is what you've done, not necessarily just the tech that you've worked on, as I was saying. So the way you word that, the way you lay out your CV, I think has become way more important, especially with AI and a lot of CVs looking very similar to each other. So the feedback that we're getting in general is that hiring managers want detail of what specifically people were responsible for, and that actually spills over to interview feedback as well. We're seeing the feedback in this person needs to talk about what they did rather than what we achieved as a company or a project, and that needs to be reflected in the CV. So the best sort of layout we're seeing at the minute is obviously name and contact details, which I know sounds basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't include contact details on there. Summary and a short list of skills. You want to keep that fairly brief. You don't want to be overdoing it with like a whole page of skills that no one's really going to read. The main thing that people or the hiring managers are looking at is your experience. So that's where I'd focus more of your efforts. So obviously company role, dates you worked at, be very clear with that. Information about projects that you specifically worked on. So for example, if you worked somewhere for 5 years and you've done multiple projects and you find it difficult to do a whole piece on each project, that's completely understandable. I will just do a couple of lines on each project, maybe top 5, 6, 7, whatever you want to put down. And then your key kind of responsibilities and achievements that you that you were accountable for, I guess, in that role. So obviously with your BA responsibilities, they might be quite generic. So try and tailor it to specific projects. I did this at X, or I did this with this project. I got involved with this tech team on this project. I had to get more technical, that kind of stuff. I think that's really important to make a distinction on those things. And again, I think there's a myth that a CV has to be 2 pages. It has to be shorter. I think it should be as long as it should be. Focus obviously needs to be on the last 5 years. So anything before that, I would still include as a shorter summary, but you don't need to go into so much detail unless you're specifically asked. So if you're working with a recruiter, definitely ask them. If you're not, then I'll just use this as a rule of thumb. People tend to care mostly about the last 5 years more than anything. And then after that, obviously, you stick your education on. And look, again, this is just a guide. This is just what we're seeing as most effective based on how many interviews we're getting when we submit CVs, based on feedback from hiring managers, feedback from candidates, basically just that. So, I think that is all. I did rattle through that pretty quickly, so hopefully you still found that valuable. But why don't we, if you have any questions, please type them in, and we'll get them answered.
Hey, Matt, might jump on and ask a question the old-fashioned way, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, obviously AI is the hype at the moment. And in some circles, a lot of people are starting to say that the chickens are coming home to roost around cost and, token maxing and all of this sort of stuff. Are you starting to see a real world need for AI skills? And what I mean by that is, like, do you have to know how to use Claude Code? And if you do you have to know how to manage it, look after cost and spend, or is it more being able to actually articulate how some of those systems might work in a production-like environment for a like a financial company who wants to deploy AI across a risk portfolio or something? What's it really something down to? Boots on the ground.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'll be completely honest. In terms of AI, we're not really seeing that much across projects anyway. Not seeing that much demand for specific AI experience or skill set or understanding. Maybe some roles we're seeing that where people might be asked in the interview about their use of AI to help with their job, but I'm not really seeing too much just yet around specific AI implementations. It's actually what more I'm seeing is the stuff that leads before that, which is obviously tidying up your data, uplifting your tech, which will eventually, I believe, lead onto sort of major AI projects.
Yeah.
I think the main thing I am seeing is actually the opposite of use of AI. I'm seeing a core BA skill set focus. So like people want to hire people who know what they're doing as a core and without the use of AI. And I think that's probably been the key thing. So, and in fact, a couple of interviews that we had with some clients, AI was a bit of a no-go for a conversation topic as requested. So look, take that as you will. I'm sure there's obviously companies that are doing AI projects, but from what I'm seeing personally, there's not been too much of that just yet. It's kind of the pre-work that will eventually lead on to that, I think. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. No, thank you. It's just sort of like, there's always new skills and new things and sharpening skills that we have. Like, is it actually worth spending all this time to go learn all these things when actually it doesn't matter so much, and kind of leans towards keep 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 the core strong and obviously know how the market's shifting, but don't spread out too wide is what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. I think focus on the core. Obviously, have the AI at the back of your mind. Obviously, is going to be there. Is going to be a new thing, but I wouldn't kind of go all guns blazing on AI upskilling or anything like that. I don't think that's become a huge necessity just yet. So Supro, how do you see the demand for agile specific roles? Quite high. I mean, when you say agile specific, do you mean just Scrum Masters or uh,
Pretty much, Karim. Uh, all delivery and product kind of roles. I see that there is a I mean, this is my pure observation recently. I see a natural shift of market towards more traditional PMing roles rather than upfront advertising for agile delivery leads or scrum masters or senior product owner for that matter. So would it be fair to say that the demand has now shifted more towards traditional ways of, roles,
Yeah.
and agile roles are more like a giving in that specific traditional role that okay you do execute agile but in a different way.
I think it depends. It really depends on the type of work and the organization. So, as I would have said earlier, a lot of the transformation work that we're seeing might come from maybe organizations that are doing like a specific IT uplift, or maybe are not so project mature. They don't really do stuff of that scale anyway. So naturally, those kind of programs of work will probably be more of a hybrid / waterfall approach, whereas agile tends to be more of that sort of continuous delivery piece and maybe more consistent with larger organizations hiring. And I think I'm not seeing more of less or the other. The companies that we're working with are just doing the types of projects that maybe are less focusing on purely on agile and more on delivering something specific. And if that needs to be delivered in waterfall, it will be delivered in waterfall. That needs to be delivered in agile, that'll be delivered in agile. So I think for candidates, it's important to be across both, but not just agile, which is kind of a lot what we're seeing from candidates, right? A lot of the candidates that are struggling are very, very agile, not enough waterfall, and they struggle with moving between the two. So yeah, it just really depends on the type of work, type of organization, and how mature they are, I suppose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Yeah.
Nick, so would you say a broad base of transferable experience is a help or hindrance? I feel it makes me adaptable to succeed in most roles, but I think it still hurts my CV as a lot of jobs still seem to require X years of experience at specific tool. Follow up, if transferable skills are good, then what's the best way to present that? I think that's a good question. I think so. Transferable skills for me, the most transferable skill is from a project standpoint. So BA, PM, change is your core skill set. And this is what I was saying about laying out on your CV. It's totally understandable that actually a lot of people have delivered multiple different types of projects. That's a strength, A. And B, the way you present that is really important. So that's where listing all the different types of pieces of work that you worked on will be beneficial, but then focusing on your core skill set. So, how do you do what's your day to day? Like, are you an end to end professional, or are you more technical, or are you more business focused? I think that's important in how you display that on your CV. I think transferable skill set is a strength for sure. So I would, but then again, it depends on what role you're applying for. And that's where I would occasionally tailor to that. Because sometimes, for example, if you're applying for something specific where you've got quite a good amount of experience in, you might just want to tailor it for that specific application. But overall, I would focus on the core skill set. Sylvia, how I can manage workload with changes as long as there's no presumptions? What's the industry trend and company development? Would you mind, sorry, explaining that more, Sylvia? No? Mohit, we typically see high application volume of roles within a day. The role is posted over 100. Generally, what percentage of applicants are even relevant or suitable for the role? And based on this, is it a case where for a role, the quicker you apply, the better? It's a great question. It depends. What I'm seeing is a lot of people who apply later down the line tend to miss out, obviously. So I would, rather than number of applications, I would probably look at how long the role's been up. So a lot of the time we're seeing people who apply maybe like after the role's been up for 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously at that point, it's quite likely that the role's probably finished up. In terms of like the applications, percentage wise, if I had to take a wild guess, I would say probably only about 10 to 20% would have any relevance. So I would still say it's 100% worth applying. But bear in mind that, what are you applying for? If you're applying for something that's looking for something very specific, and you're applying for that with none of that specific experience, and I would probably say you're wasting your time. So be really picky and be really careful about what you're applying for. Is my guide, rather than focusing on how many other people have applied, because people can search through that, so that's not an issue. How do you address? Can you tell me what does stakeholder expect standard? Do you mean just like as a standard for way of communication, or sorry, I don't know. I think you might need to clear that up, Sylvia, again. How do you address having gaps in the CV due to market being slow? Happy? Yeah, look, I would be transparent and honest, and maybe put a reason for why. It's completely fine. We've placed a lot of people who've been out of work for one person was out of work for 2 years. Obviously, if you're out for maternity leave, just say, look, I was out for maternity leave. If you say it's a health issue, say health issue. If you say market was slow, just maybe explain what you were doing in that time. What people like to see is that you weren't just sitting around doing nothing. Maybe just use that time to upskill in something, and just say taking time out, or upskilled in XYZ. So as long as you explain it, I think it's fine. Where are the most IT CapEx focused on this year? Is it mostly new capability like AI agents or digital transformations, or more enhancements or infrastructure or other? I think it's enhancements / transformations, I would say. So like I said, a lot of the projects we're seeing is around uplifting current IT infrastructure. So a lot of organizations are actually running on a lot older IT infrastructure than you'd believe, and they're looking to basically enhance that a bit more. Again, whether that's in anticipation of putting in more new tech and later down the line, or whether it's just the fact that it's running on really old tech, I'm not sure. I'm obviously don't work there, but yeah, I would say mostly digital and tech enhancement projects. Is 5-page CV too long? No, I think that's fine, especially for a contractor. Obviously, I would avoid. It depends how you write it as well. If you're writing it as a book, I'd probably say yes, it is too long. If you're writing it and it's got really good information and it's really easy to the eye and easy to understand, I would say it's fine. From the roles you're currently recruiting for, what project management tools and technical skills are you seeing most often in job descriptions? Are there any that have become must-haves over the last year? Not really. Nothing specific around project management tools at all. Like I said, not even any specific technical skills. It's kind of a wide variety. The main thing that we're seeing is a demand for good experience, a good core skill set, good communication skills, and almost like a varied background, to be honest. Someone who's got you can go from one project to another without any issues. There's a few more questions to work through here. Are CVs being selected using AI bots? Look, not to my knowledge. Is the short answer. I don't know of anything. I'm still yet to see any of that, but obviously I don't know. Maybe there's some companies using it. But yeah, I'm not seeing any of that for sure. For Salesforce PMs, 100 to 200 plus applicants per job. These many PMs don't exist in Sydney. Last year, the count was 50 to 60. Also, sometimes JD and interviews are not in sync. Happy to discuss more. Yeah, look, I think that's what I was saying before, right? Out of the 100, 200 applicants per job, a lot of those people don't have the relevant experience. It's just people who are looking for PM jobs. And so if you're going to apply, I would try and be as specific as you can. Yeah, this applies to any sort of tech skills.
Karim, this is Ani. What is happening here? Because the recruiters are getting 200 or even 400 resumes. Although I'm a genuine candidate, the possibility that recruiter will review my resume has become very challenging. I keep calling them, contacting them, educating them that these are the skills you should look for Salesforce PMs rather than generic resumes. But not necessary they will actually
give interview opportunity to a genuine PM.
So are
Then
you saying you're applying for Salesforce PMs, but you haven't delivered Salesforce? Is that what you're saying?
I have delivered Salesforce PM project for many years. I'm a genuine PM, Salesforce PM. But if the same job is getting 400 resumes, possibility that my resume will be reviewed by the recruiter and I will get the interview call has become challenging this year. Till last year, the situation was not that bad. Those jobs were getting, maybe the Salesforce PM jobs were getting 40, 50 resumes. So I used to get calls from the recruiters.
Yeah. Look, I think one thing I would firstly do is reach out to the recruiters that you've spoken to before. That's the first thing I'll do. Obviously, people that know you, people know your skill set, let them know that you're on the market. That's the easiest way to get around that thing first. Secondly, look, it's hard. I can't speak for other recruiters. What I do know is that if you're having 200 or 300 people apply for roles and all of them are trying to call you, then it's sometimes going to be hard to pick up the phone specific people, and it is maybe a little bit difficult to get back to everyone. But yeah, the one thing I would say is that following up with an email directly with your CV saying, I applied for this role, I've got this experience, please let me know when you're free to chat. I think it's probably the best approach rather than kind of chasing people. And at the end of the day, as long as your skill set is relevant and your experience is relevant, then at some point, hopefully you should get a call. But I understand it's pretty frustrating. But yeah, I definitely would reach out to those recruiters that you've spoken to before, you've got relationships with. I would go to them first because they will know you. So that's the first port of call.
Another point Karim I mentioned is about the gap between the JD and the interviews. So the JD is technical PM. When you go for an interview, assuming the interviewer is a CI of a small company or a director of a small company, his expectation is they want basically a business PM who will prepare the steering committee decks, who will maintain the risk registers, who will take care of compliance. This is one gap I have seen. Second gap, they want somebody who has specifically worked on, say, Salesforce Revenue Cloud for a telecom industry. Now, for a PM job, it doesn't matter if somebody has delivered so many Salesforce projects, understanding Revenue Cloud in next few days. But they are looking really for an exact fit who has worked on a particular Salesforce solution for a particular industry. And that is another criteria that is getting added this year, which was not there 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, look, it's hard. I think for IT specific stuff, which I don't really do much Salesforce. So my colleague Chris would probably be the best person to answer that specifically on why maybe they're so specific on that experience across Salesforce. I'm seeing more of the generic sort of PM type roles. I guess if you're specifically looking to deliver an IT, actual some kind of ERP or IT transformation, then it would make sense to have some sort of knowledge on it. But like you said, as a PM, it rarely matters. But at the end of the day, it's down to the hiring manager if that's what they want and that's what they're looking for. There's not really much you can do. The only thing I would do is when you go into these interviews, maybe just have that in mind rather than going in with this is my skill set because you've seen a JD. Maybe take the approach of trying to understand what it is they're looking for at the start and maybe tailoring your answers. I don't know if that might help. But yeah, Chris might be the best person to answer that.
Okay. No worries, I will reach out to Chris. Thanks.
No worries. Do you provide CV review services? I mean, we not on its own as a service, but when we work with people on specific roles, yes, I do, and I know we all do at Precision. What is the incentive for any employer to look at a candidate with transferable skills as opposed to someone who's done exactly what they want? Well, it's that long-term approach, as I was saying, for anyone. For any organization looking to embark on a 2 or 3 year transformation, it's quite likely that they're not going to be looking at just one tech for over that 3 years. The person that's going to stay in that role and keep the IP in the organization is someone who's a bit more flexible and can move in between projects. So that would be the incentive, to have someone there who can deliver multiple pieces of work rather than just come in for that thing and then be almost redundant for another type of work because they haven't got that specialist knowledge. So yeah, sorry, let me just mute everyone because someone's. Right, final few questions, and before we have to close it off, I find Nick. I find there's immediately 73 applicants for a new role. I say, 73 people AI workflow. Oh, okay, you're just commenting on that. Sylvia, how's the weekend going? Sorry, again, Sylvia, I have no idea what you're saying here. But okay, cool. Any further questions? Or I think maybe someone's got their hand up. Mohit?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was a question I asked in the chat. All good.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, if that's it, then yeah, thank you for joining. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Karim. Sorry, this is Archana speaking.
Oh, yeah.
I had typed my question. I think it just got missed.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what's the appetite in the aged care and healthcare industries for the project coordinator roles, given that there's increasing use of AI in the projects now by the project managers?
Oh, you mean specifically in aged care and healthcare?
Yes, because that's where I was interested in, but also in general, where is it heading to?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the program, size of the project, size of the transformation. I think obviously if you're looking at hiring 1 or 2 PMs, it's probably unlikely they're going to be looking at hiring a program director or program coordinator or project coordinator as well. That probably would be absorbed by the PM. But if you're looking at huge programs of work, that's where I think will be beneficial. So in relation to aged care and healthcare, it depends on the size of the organization, the size of the program, I think, personally. But it's hard to answer that. I wouldn't really know. I've not really seen any project coordinator roles in a while. And any of those would probably be hired directly rather than through a recruiter, I imagine. It'd probably be more permanent or FTC focused. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks, Karim.
No worries.
Just to add to that, I worked with a aged care organization a few months ago. What I noticed, they are actually under a lot of budgetary constraints. Healthcare may not be that well-paying field. So they will hire 1 PM and will expect the same person to work as a coordinator and if required, even as a program manager. They may not hire 2-3 different people.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to what I was saying before about this sort of, I guess, end-to-end, whatever that means, kind of all-encompassing, someone who understands tech business, who can work doing project coordinator stuff, who can work doing PM stuff, change stuff. So yeah, I think it depends on budget and size of the project, size of the organization. So yeah, but cool. All right, thank you all very much. I'll send everyone a follow-up with the market report and answers to the questions if I can. And yeah, hope to speak to you all soon.